Name is Josiah and welcome to the Sports Cruise on Yale Media channel. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel because we'll be bringing to you all the latest and weird and then also intriguing news in the world of sports. But like I said, you can just subscribe to our channel on YouTube and also across social media platforms, X and then also Facebook as well as TikTok. So let me start off with the very first story where the PGMOL, that's the body or the governing body that takes care of referees and all that in the English Premiership, have announced that they have parted ways, or in fact, they have sacked one of their referees with the name, or who goes by the name David Coote. So, if you remember, a couple of months ago, there were news flying around that Premier League referee David Coote made some utterances towards Liverpool and then also their former manager Jurgen Klopp, and due to that, he was subjected to a lot of criticism, and which also led to the FA and then the PGMOL, suspending him indefinitely. But news reaching us is that finally they have come to a conclusion, and that is for David Coote to just be sacked, or he's been, expelled from his post as a Premier League referee. And the PGMOL had to release this statement. According to BBC, this is the statement they released, and it reads: following the conclusion of a thorough investigation into David Coote's conduct, his employment with PGMOL has been terminated today with immediate effect. David Coote's actions were found to be in serious breach of the provisions of his employment contract, with his position deemed untenable. Supporting David Coote continues to be important to us, and we remain committed to his welfare. He has the right to appeal the decision to terminate his employment, and that's the statement from the PGMOL. According to them, they believe that the actions of David Coote, who later, in a video was found snorting a white substance, and no one actually knows what that white substance is, but as per his actions and his utterances towards Liverpool and then also former Liverpool manager Jurgen Klopp, when he language, and then also the other, using some foul words against these parties, means that the PGMOL deems it important for them to just part ways with David Coote. Serie A in Brazil came to a conclusion. Yes, and the last round of games were played with Botafogo being crowned as champions. But former PSG and then also Chelsea defender, that's Thiago Silva, he plays for Fluminense in the Serie A in Brazil. And guess what? His side, had to leave it very, very late, and they avoided the drop after their very last game of the season in the Brasileirão. So that's the name of the league, being played. And, if you'd remember, there was a time where even in the English Premiership, Leeds United, that are currently playing in the Championship, also avoided relegation. And, their former player who now plays for Barcelona, that Rafinha Diaz, after one of their games, in fact, the final game of the season, he had to just, walk with his knees from one side of the field to the other side of the field, which many do not really understand. And then, after Fluminense also avoided the drop over the weekend in, the Brazilian Serie A, Thiago Silva also replicated that same act, walking with his knees from one end of the pitch to the other end of the pitch. Now, according to research, it's one thing that most of the South Americans do, especially the Catholics in South America. It's a way of, showing gratitude and appreciation, for having their prayers to their deity, for having their prayers being answered. So that was actually what Thiago Silva did, after Fluminense, avoided relegation at the end of 38 mad days in the Brazilian Serie A. Walking I wouldn't say barefooted, he was actually walking with his knees on the ground from one side to the other side. And it just reminds us of what Rafinha did, and it goes a long way to tell you that they've really come far, and they did a lot of work. But he's just saying thank you to his deity for helping Fluminense not to be relegated at the end of the 2024 season in Brazil. Chelsea were in action against Tottenham Hotspur, so it was a London derby at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium over the weekend. And Tottenham Hotspurs, after taking an early 2-0 lead, they ended up, losing the game by 4-3, what was quite shocking. But in that game, quite a number of records, were set and broken. So Tottenham Hotspurs themselves, at the losing end, ended up with an unwanted record because they became the very, very first side in the Premier League, to lose after taking the lead by 2 goals in the Premier League era. So no other team has done that before. But Tottenham Hotspur, they ended up doing it 9 times. 9 times they've taken a 2-goal lead in a Premier League game and ended up not winning it, which is quite shocking and bizarre for a team, to lose 9 times after taking the lead twice in a game. But then, on the other hand, also was a record being set by Cole Palmer, who scored twice on the day, and both goals coming from the penalty spot. The last of, the 2 penalties was a Panenka, a lovely, finish from Cole Palmer. And he also became the very first player, so beating Yaya Touré's record, to score 12 consecutive Premier League penalties without missing. And that's quite a huge achievement. We've seen some good Premier League, penalty takers in recent times, like Cristiano Ronaldo. There is Eden Hazard is also there. Leighton Baines is one of the best we've seen. Even Yaya Touré, one of the best we've seen so far. Ricky Lambert, another player, who hardly misses. There's Ivan Toney, who currently plays in Saudi Arabia. So we've seen all these players, these are some of the best penalty takers in the history of the Premier League. But even at some point, they ended up missing. So for Cole Palmer, this young lad to play 12 penalty kicks and not even miss a single one, beating former Manchester City midfielder Yaya Touré's record, is quite an impressive, feat for him to achieve. So in that London derby between Chelsea and then Tottenham Hotspur, it was fireworks. It was quite, quite a lot of, things that happened actually in the game, from Cucurella slipping to Tottenham Hotspur also, bottling a 2-0 lead. But I think the limelight after that game will be on Cole Palmer, who had an excellent game, setting up his teammate, that's Enzo Fernandez, for, the third goal, Chelsea's third goal, and then also scoring 2 penalties on the day to become the first ever player in the history of the Premier League to score 12 straight penalty shootouts. The Premier League were served with a very, very, unpleasant news after West Ham attacker, that's Mikel Antonio, was involved in a car crash, a gory one, in fact. And, it happened in the town of Essex, yeah, that's the name, Essex, where Mikel Antonio, the West Ham attacker, was riding in his yellow, or in his Lamborghini, if I should put it, and, he ended up crashing, and he had to be, airlifted from the accident, scene to the hospital for him to undergo surgery. So the good news is, he's responded now. He's conscious, and, he's also stable, and, West Ham issuing a statement asking the public to respect the privacy of Mikel Antonio and his family, at this crucial time. But, in the aftermath of the accident that happened, the news we are hearing is that it could be likely that Mikel Antonio could be out for up to 9 months. So what likely means that he could be out for the rest of the season, and then also, the opening part of next season, which is quite likely. And then also, that's even, the good news. And then a news reaching us later stating that he could be forced to retire, from football totally after, he fractured his, a part of his limbs, which doesn't really look good. So, as per reports from the hospital, it says that he had a fracture in his lower limb, which doesn't really look good for Mikel Antonio. But for West Ham, they have issued a statement saying that, on Monday, they'll be playing against Wolverhampton Wanderers, and they would be, paying a tribute to their attacker, Mikel Antonio. That's before the game and then also after the game. And then they've have also promised that the proceeds from that game will actually, be given to charity as part of the efforts to raise awareness and as also, share solidarity with the attacker. So that's what actually happened to Mikel Antonio, which will be sad if, yes, it would be good news as relatively if Mikel Antonio should miss 9 months of football. But then, on the other side, it will be very, very sad and heartbreaking for a player like Mikel Antonio, not to play or kick football anymore after the accident. But, our thoughts and prayers are also with the 34-year-old, Jamaican-born English, who has been has had one of the best celebrations as far as, goal scoring celebration.